All right, I'm gonna do it. I would like to speak on that prompt. Yeah. I know, she speaks, surprise. You all, you know Carrie. Carrie, come say hi. There he is. Carrie, Carrie came over to sponsor me, or whatever you want to call it. That's why we're on my back porch, to keep our social distance, thanks COVID-22. Oh my God, I'm so nervous. I promised Carrie that I wouldn't back out on speaking tonight, so that's what I'm doing. I guess I should start with the classic beginning. Hello, my name is Jamie. Some of you already know that. Yeah. I'm an alcoholic. I'm assuming you know that too, as that's the price we pay to get into this exclusive club of ours, right? Hell of a happy hour we've got going on here. Some things y'all should know about me. Number one, smartass is my default setting. So I don't mean to sound flippant or disrespectful. It's just what I do when I'm scared. Two, I'm scared. I'm scared to be here. I'm scared to not be here. And I really want to thank everybody in this group for letting me just hang back and watch for the past couple of months, especially you, Brother Karis. I want to make some sort of joke about communion wine, but I'm sure you've heard every version of it already. I've been trying to find a group that I felt like I could be really honest about what I'm struggling with, and I'm not sure if I'm ready to share, but I can feel my demons closing back in on me, literally. And I can't keep carrying this by myself. So here I go. Here I go. Here I go. Okay, last week when we met in person, which, oh, by the way, I really appreciate everybody wearing your masks and taking this 8th wave, oh God, 8th wave, seriously. I have some old lung injuries that put me at high risk, even with the new vaccine. So truly, thank all of you. Those of y'all that were here will remember that Dale Tucker was talking about the dreams he's been having since he got back from Afghanistan, and I don't see him on the call tonight. He has given me so much encouragement and coffee over the past few weeks. I really wanted to thank him. I hope he's okay. Hearing Dale talk about how difficult it's been figuring out what is a memory and what is actually before him, and how he's learning to deal with the brand new stutter that ends in his mouth but starts in his brain as it trips over itself, trying to figure out if what he is seeing he is actually seeing. I gotta be honest, I wasn't quite sure what the hell he was talking about, but I needed to understand, to know, to hear him out, which is why we didn't join y'all for takeout tacos that night. Sorry to quash any rumors of a scandalous affair, although I'm a sucker for a guy with a stutter. Every story is so suspenseful. Dale laughed at that, by the way. I hope he's all right. had gone to the other Mexican restaurant for drinks on the patio, just soda water, I swear, accountability buddy system and all. And I don't think he'll mind me sharing this with you. Dale started talking about veils. Dale started talking about veils. Like a wedding dress, magic genie, dance of the seven, that kind of veil. And he was saying, and I'm paraphrasing here, he was saying that they're useless for concealing a thing because, I mean, well, they don't hide a thing. We can all still see it. We know that it's there. But they're more like fishing nets in that they keep things contained and separated. And we all have multiple veils. Like, in society, it's sometimes an expected dress code, sometimes literally, that we wear them in public interactions, in at work, in relationships, in confessions, and how we interpret the world. It keeps us ever so separated so that nobody is overwhelmed by our true selves, and that in turn keeps our true selves safe in a way. But it takes a lot of energy, a lot of work to keep those veils in place. And when you're tired, veils start to slip. Maybe that's why the Dance of the Seven Veils was seen as so scandalous, because by the end of it, there's nothing left to, protect people from all that lives inside of you. You're laid bare and vulnerable on the altar. But what Dale was saying is that the hard part is figuring out what side of the veil a thing is on. Okay, an example, you're at the Renaissance Festival and you're watching the belly dancing show, and this lusty, swollen, yeasty guy goes drunkenly tottering up to the belly dancing stage, and he reaches out a paw and he swipes his hand down the thigh of one of the dancers mid-step. Now, she's wearing this billowy chiffon covering her legs, so his hand did not technically make contact with her skin. But as heat went through, she could perceive his lust on the flesh of her leg. So, what has touched her and what has not? What protects her and what does not? That night when the dancer goes home and stands in the hot shower, unable to wash off the feeling of that man's touch, she's been changed, but did that change come from outside of her veil or inside of her veil? Sorry, I got a little carried away in that analogy there. I'm doing a great job of sharing, aren't I? Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, I apologize. Let me get back to Dale. So, while Dale was talking about how his dreams are spilling into his days, and he keeps seeing the toddler that wandered out and got caught in his crossfire, and how sometimes he can't even look at his own kid because all he sees is the bloodied baby with the big brown eyes staring back at him, a tangible embodiment of the question why. I just felt like his story sounded so much like mine. Not that I've ever done anything near as admirable as serve in Afghanistan or anywhere. That night I asked Dale, how do you tell the difference between what is real and what is not? And he said, it's all real to you. What's important is it on your side of the veil? So I guess we should all thank Dale or blame him for me speaking up tonight. Cheers to Dale. I really wish he was here. I hope he's okay. Okay. My origin story, how it got to Here Talk, the anti-hero's journey. Listen, you have all been so brave and blunt and honest with what you've shared here. I want you to know that I am speaking with full honesty. In spite of my smart-ass mouth, I would never dishonor the trust that has been built in this space. And I really need you to know that. Because, I mean, we all have valid reasons why we drink. Something haunts us all. And I'm not an attention seeker. I hope you've sensed that. I've had enough attention. And I know how all this is going to sound. But please stay with me here. Stay with me. I didn't really start drinking heavily until I was in my late 20s. I didn't want to. My dad was an alcoholic, and I saw what it did. I have this really clear memory from when I was a kid of us all being in the backyard at our house, and my mom, oh, the neighbors, and my mom stepped in this pile of vomit that had been covered up with leaves. And when she figured out it was drunk puke, she just lit into my dad, saying that he lied last night when he said he wasn't drinking, and that she could smell the alcohol on him, you know, just spitting venom. And my dad just stood there and took it, looking down at the ground while my mom verbally piled and piled and piled on top of him. And when she was finally finished yelling and stormed back in the house, dramatically hobbling and carrying her puke shoe in her hand, my dad took his little plastic cup over to the ice chest. We had just gotten back from fishing, so the ice chest was still in the front of the boat. And he put a couple of ice cubes into his cup. Our ice maker, very dense and wedge-shaped. And then he walked around to the back of the boat and pulled out a little bottle of Southern Comfort from between the fuel tanks next to the outboard motor. I don't think I'm ever going to lose the sound of those ice cubes and that little bit of fluid clattering against the walls of his plastic cup. Eight-year-old me didn't want any of that. The yelling, the puke, the shame, the Southern Comfort, none of it. So I never did the sneaking a drink behind the bleachers thing in high school. I took a weird pride in the fact that I didn't have my first drink until I was of legal drinking age. I would maybe have a drink at parties to fit in, but that's it. I preferred ice cream. A lot of ice cream. But when I was 27, I went through an event. I'm not entirely sure what else to call it. I had this crew of friends, and we were all about the same age. We had met working for a pittance at an H&R Block. We called work the Island of Misfit Accountants. And, you know, we would all hang out, bond over weekly board games, just being goofs. And one night we got to talking about the fact that we had all been the good kids in high school, and we never hit those glorified teen milestones you see in films. No sneaking peach schnapps into the movie theater or spin the bottle or playing hooky from school. None of that. So we made a plan to save up our tax season overtime pay and find a way to do all that stupid shit we should have done when we were teenagers. And that summer, it was in June, we rented a cabin way out in the woods, and we drove out there with a trunk full of liquor and mixers and fishing gear and an archery setup and makeup and condoms. And we justified it as a skills trade weekend. I was going to teach everybody how to fish. Dwayne was going to show us all how to whittle and sharpen blades. Remy was going to set up the archery setup and show us how to archer. And Luke and Julie were going to give us all makeovers. No, it was not, we didn't really have any cell phone or computer access and no nearby neighbors. We were just a bunch of adults out in the middle of nowhere, pretending like we were at a preteen summer camp with booze and sex. Driving out there, we were joking about how it was the perfect scenario for a horror movie, perfect premise, and so we all had to make sure none of us were virgins so nobody had an unfair advantage. With all that joking, we should have known better. 4 days later, I stumbled out of the woods and into a live bait and sandwich shop, half dead and covered in blood. A patch of scalp on the very top of my head was nearly removed by a large canine tooth. There was a third-degree burn on my forehead. Looked like I had passed out on a loose coal from the fire pit. My ribs on my right side were all shattered, shards of bone lodged into my lung, my chest slowly filling up with fluid, lacerations on my back from claws. A paw drag had nearly ripped off my left breast, and I had an 80% tear in my Achilles tendon from another bite. They told me that when I wandered into the bait shop that I was holding my left arm out in front of me like I was in the middle of catching myself from a perpetual fall. And mind you, I don't remember any of this except I was very cold and my right hand was plastered to my stomach right under my nearly absent tit, holding in a bulge of large intestine that was sticking out due to a single claw snagging a hole in my abdomen. And the burn. I do remember the burn. Yep, it was that. That was me. It got some newspaper coverage. Some of you may have read about it from the looks on your faces. Some of you did. It's 4 dead, mauled. An unprecedented attack. Scientists in the area had never seen mountain lions work as a pair. We were all outside around the fire pit in the middle of the day, making a ton of noise, all nearly drunk enough to have blacked out, according to the toxicology reports. And I was the sole survivor, the final girl, the brave woman that fought off and killed her attackers with nothing but a freshly sharpened machete and fire. Investigators guessed that I was saved by an extreme adrenaline response amplified by the alcohol. I used to say that cocktails saved my life. Reporters called it a real-life horror movie. And that is when I really started drinking. I got out of the hospital. $42,000, by the way, and I'm still paying it off. I will never own a home or a new car because of that fucking hospital bill. My parents took me back in. We put all my stuff in storage, and they cleared out a space for me in the back room where my mom keeps every magazine she's bought since 1971. And it was over 2 years before I could move out again on my own. Took a real toll on my dad, a lot of stress. You can probably guess how he dealt with that. My mom liked to tell me every day about how hard it was for her to be living through all of this, and how she was so sick with worry that she can't do anything, and reminding me that if I had not gone out into the woods to that day, none of this would have happened, and it was all my fault. And you can probably guess how I dealt with that. My father and I would take these little sabbaticals in his tool shed where he kept a little refrigerator full of ice. We were basically just hiding from my mom, but we called it Southern comforting. I am always in such physical pain from my injuries. I also called it taking my medicine. After the event, when I was coherent again, the cops started visiting me on a regular basis, to the point that we actually became caring friends. I even dated one of them on the sly for a couple of months, until it became too difficult to keep up the veil of secrecy. Each visit was full of admiration and pity and questions. You know, what you lived through took so much courage. I know it must be difficult being the only person to walk away alive. Can you remember any more details? Can we ask you about some specifics? You realize this is to protect you. Turned out that there were some elements that didn't fit in at the crime scene. They couldn't figure out how I set the big cats ablaze, or how the fire burned so hot that there was almost no flesh left on their bones. How I swore that I had been lost in the woods for 3 days, and the coroner concluded that the victims had died less than 12 hours before I stumbled into that bait shop. There were trails of a dark substance that resembled crude oil or tar all throughout the crime scene. Did I know how it got there? The only answer I ever had to their questions was, I don't know. But my brain, it would latch on to any little bit I could remember, playing it over and over again, with each visit from the cops and each backhanded comment from my mom about how miserable her life had become. And every time I saw my dad go to the shed for Southern comfort, the loop of guilt, wondering, what could I have done to prevent this? Why didn't I do more? Why was I the only one alive? Why didn't it take me? Why was I lying to the cops? Because I was lying to the cops. Not lying so much as omitting. 4 human corpses, 2 feline corpses, 1 human survivor. 7 beings at the scene. There was an 8th being. The only thing I absolutely remember about the event is they. And when I say they, I don't mean like a pronoun like he, she, they. It was they, this mass collective, dark plurality that moved as one. And I saw they. It was the middle of the day. We were gathered around the fire pit. We were putting away our whittling and turned to drinking. We stashed our knives off to the side so that we wouldn't have a drunken accident, so nobody would get hurt. And a couple of amaretto hours later, I leaned back in my chair and I had a view past the cabin to the edge of the clearing. And have you ever seen a thing that cannot be seen? Like there's this void that your eyes cannot see, not in the spectrum of cones and rods, but deeper inside, you can know and trace the shape of it. I watched at the tree line when I saw this void. It startled, like it was surprised by me seeing and perceiving it. And they stepped out of the woods and into the clearing and gazed back at me very still, and I felt they smile. And it wasn't an unkind smile, it was genuine. But I've seen people look upon a pet or a child that they do not despise, but they have absolutely no affection for. It was like that. And I watched as they made a slow, straight path toward me. And they's approach absorbed all of my attention, took it and held it. I saw nothing else but the very peripheral world. And I had a vague awareness of slowly standing up, my chair falling over, my friends saying, "What is wrong? What are you looking at?" Shaking me. There may have been a slap, but all of that was not they. They trailed even closer to me until they was all that I saw. And they was like cornstarch and water. You mix it together and you get this substance that is neither a solid nor a liquid. It can break and drip and flow and reform. That was they. But they's constitution was absence. At some point, the lions arrived. I couldn't see them. I could almost hear screams from my friends in the lions. I could almost smell blood and shit. But by this point, they held all of my senses, all of the not space before me. And I knew, as I knew they's non-existent face, I knew that they held thrall over the lions, could call them off, could cease the gore. But they did not. Eventually there was silence beyond the absence, stillness, and they oozed around me and behind me and eased up against me as only the most intimate of encounters do. And my eyes were forward again, seeing the world. And there were the lions. And I gasped because they were so beautiful. They were muscular and chiseled and taut with potential energy. And the blood of their carnage blended perfectly with their tawny coats to give them a sheen of Rosegold. And as I looked at them, they looked straight through me, eyes locked on they, awaiting permission to turn kinetic. And I swear, the part of me that untangles sound heard a chuckle, bowels deep and lusty and velvet, and they entered me. It was like stepping into a bath. I was the water, warm and liquid, and I entered a state of suspension, like the edge of a sneeze or the middle of a tickle or just short of the crest of orgasm. I was fully omnipresent, lost in the vastness of the now, in this moment, and in this moment, and in this moment. Here are the lines in motion. Here is a vise of teeth upon my skull. Here is a machete handle in my palm. Here is a crack deep inside. Here is the taste of copper. Here is air in a space that was once sealed. Here is heat. Here is they once again in front of me. Here is awareness of pain in my body. Here is the slow and gradual return of perception of past and present. So I guess I'm not really lying when I say I don't know what happened nor how I did what I did. And besides, how am I supposed to explain to some beat cop that my burn was caused by some featureless plurality of darkness extending what could best be described as a hand and laying it on my forehead and drawing forth from me some sort of nurturance like a baby at a teat or a mosquito, only then to drop me in the wood broken and shivering? I mean, who's going to try to even understand that? Who would not judge me and just listen? Who could I tell? I told my dad. It was a couple of years after I had moved out again on my own. I found a work-from-home accounting job that paid just enough for me to keep my apartment clean and my stomach full and my liquor cabinet stocked. I could lose a day here or there, hungover, because I could plow through 2 days of work in one sitting. And it was the perfect job. I was too drunk to feel guilty and too busy to overthink that which cannot be changed. I had gone over to my parents' house for Easter Sunday dinner, and from the get-go, my mom just laid into both my dad and me, saying she could smell the alcohol on us, and we were lying about not drinking, and we clearly did this to make her life horrible. So we figured, hell, we might as well go out and get drunk for real if we're going to get blamed regardless. So we retreated to the shed for Southern comforting, and we just talked about everything from what trees were getting cut down for the building of the new grocery store to why did they even get married in the first place. And my dad commented that my forehead scar was looking better, and it just all fell out of me. The Rosegold lions, the suspension, the constant guilt that maybe none of this would have happened if I had not leaned back in my chair and seen they. And my dad listened, and his eyes teared up, maybe for what happened, maybe because he could never understand what happened, maybe just for what we all had become. And we hugged, something that we never did, and I just closed my eyes and absorbed his love. And when my eyes opened, over his shoulder a darkness was smiling at me, and my forehead scar filled with white fire, and I pushed away from my dad, and I stumbled out of the shed, and I puked next to the building, and I covered it up with leaves. I passed out in a plastic chair by the pecan tree. My mom found us a couple hours later, me half awake and covered in leafy puke, and my dad in the shed, unresponsive. Doctor said his drinking had caught up with him, that his heart just gave out. I knew that wasn't the whole of it, It was something I said. I spoke of it. I caused it. I brought they. You know, I quit drinking for a while. One of the cops that showed up to the call for my dad was the fella I had dated for a bit. We moved in together and helped each other get happy. He helped me sober up. I helped him get a teaching certificate so that he could quit the force and teach high school. We went camping for our 5th anniversary. He set up the tent. I went down to the creek to catch some fish. He started a cooking fire. I approached with my catch. I saw movement behind the tent by the tree line. I felt like somebody's pet or child that was regarded with no affection. And my scar again filled up with fire, and I just closed my eyes and started screaming, "Craig, we have got to leave now." We left everything, climbed into the truck, and drove away. He asked me what happened. I didn't tell him. I told him nothing. I didn't talk for 3 days. He came home from classes to find me passed out in the garage next to a bottle of antifreeze I had been drinking. In the ER, the nurses gave me alcohol to counteract the poison in my system. At home, I gave myself alcohol to counteract everything else. I said, "Craig, you have to leave now." He left everything, climbed into the truck, and drove away. And that is when I moved out here to try to get away from the absence of Craig and the ever-presence of my mother. I work my job. I meet up with some friends. I climb on the wagon. I start to think too much. I worry for my friends. I fall off the wagon. I push away my friends. I don't see my friends get destroyed. Cliche as it sounds, my longest relationship has been with the bottle. And now I'm just so tired. My body hurts so much. And I can't keep up my veils anymore. Last week while Dale was talking, I saw the child. Not just in my mind from his description, the bloodied baby with the big brown eyes. No. She was there, glowing like a jar full of lightning bugs. Her hair in luminescent ringlets. And her blood spread so evenly over her tawny skin, she looked rose-gold. And she stood stock still, staring straight through Dale at a darkness behind him, not solid, not liquid, black as absence, facelessly giving forth a not unkind smile. That night at the restaurant, I did tell Dale that I saw the child, his burden there, beside him on his side of the veil, with her wide and beautiful eyes, and her tiny hand on his knee, steadying her standing. And Dale cried. He had great heaving sobs that he tried to hide in his hands, and I told him, no, don't fight to hide. Save your energy for the most important veil. You can't worry about if people see you as naked and vulnerable. They don't know how hard you are working to stay strong. So cling to your wife, cling to your child, cling to those that understand you. Let them make the fabric of your veil stronger. Hold it in place, because you cannot let that darkness in. Because if you do, it has you. And they will never go away. And we stood up and hugged, cuddled up like litter mates, and his arms were around my back, and my arms were over his shoulders, and my eyes were looking straight into they. I did not tell him that they had followed him all the way from our spaced out circle of chairs to the coffee station, through the rec center doors, to the restaurant patio, oozing black plasma crumbling in a spotty trail the whole way. I did not tell him that they was standing there watching, waiting, and patiently longing to become a third in our embrace. I did not tell him, and I want to know that he's okay. I need to know that he's okay because I did not tell him. I did not tell him to keep him safe. Oh God. I've done it again, Carrie. I've said too much. I've dragged all of y'all into this. Lord, I am so tired, and my body hurts, and I can't keep carrying this, fighting this alone, losing the people I love. My name is Jamie, and I am an alcoholic, and I am held by darkness, and I didn't want to bring this down on all of you, but I can't be by myself anymore. Help me. Help me. Help.
Jamie. Jamie, you okay? What are you looking at? Oh my God.